And we are back. We just showed you the final installment of our Powering Progress series that Elisa did such an excellent job on. Thank you for sharing all of this great information with us.
It was behind the scenes months of work. I've been working on these pieces for months. A lot of research and everything went into it. So I'm happy to be able to share that with you.
Yeah, and we've known for decades that, different people have different health outcomes depending on where they live. Your zip code determines how long you're going to live. And so this final installment that you did talked a little bit more about environmental equity and justice.
I've been wanting to do a piece on environmental justice and equity for a very long time, because we know that climate change impacts all of us, but it doesn't impact all of us equally. We see that on a global scale and on a community scale. On a global scale, some of our poorest, most vulnerable countries are often hit the hardest, and then again, we see that on a community scale too. So I just loved and was so inspired by William Hughes, who met that community leader who was just like, why can't my community have these things? Because they can, and he fought for it, and look what he did. He got one, and they have so many more projects in the pipeline because he stood up, and it's not just him, there's 2 other community leaders as well. There's a bunch of them that kind of gather and make sure that they have these resources.
And Elisa, some people at home might be wondering, okay, so there's an EV charger in this low-income community, and in theory, that means most people there probably don't have the money to buy an EV. So why is it important to have that charger there?
I actually spoke to some people about this, and they said that even some people in the community are afraid, like, oh no, they're going to gentrify the neighborhood and kick us out. And that's not what they're trying to do. Because electric vehicles is the way that we're headed. We know that this is the solution and we have this problem. So if this community doesn't have chargers, then how are they going to be able to move forward in this green revolution? If EVs are, in 10 years, we're going to wind up seeing so many more, even 5 years, so many more EVs on the road than gas cars, then how are people in these communities going to be able to charge? They're not going to have the opportunity to get an electric vehicle to save their health, to save the planet, all of these things, if there are no chargers in their neighborhood. Like, how do you do that? You can't.
It makes a lot of sense, and you even went into, how these communities lack grocery stores. It's the same kind of concept, right? If we can get ahead of it, that way we won't be behind.
Yeah, and just bringing so much of this development too. They were talking about, he said a lot, this brings research and development jobs, marketing jobs. This is a huge tech industry, the EV industry. So it brings a lot of opportunity to this community that, that needs it. Like I said, it could solve the problem of food deserts, if they have some of the money and the resources coming from this other avenue. So I was just so inspired by them, just to see what they're doing and how passionate they are about it.
Yeah, and you even talked about the CATS buses, right?
Yes.
So even if you don't have your own car, it's interesting to see how public transportation is even going the way of electric.
And it's important too, because all of those bus routes come through all of our communities. So you and I, we drive an EV, that cleans the air, but if the whole transit system is electric, that makes a huge difference. And then you're not having all these pollutants come through all the neighborhoods all day. So yeah, every little step counts. So I'm excited to see some more of those EV buses on the road. They're piloting them for the next 18 months, and then they're going to pick the ones that serve us best and get them all on the road.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. And another piece of your story that was so interesting to me is how these highways were designed to go in the middle of these historically marginalized, mostly Black communities. And for me, I didn't immediately think about the health impact of a highway being right in the middle of your town, your neighborhood.
All of those air pollutants, right? If you live right by the highway, you're being exposed to it so much more. And there's a lot of research being done on some of those long-term environmental impacts of just sitting near the poor air quality and your health.
And thank you so much for giving us this insight. I'm sure some people that were watching at home probably feel so much more educated and empowered after this.
A little education, that's all I wanted out of this, just to teach something new to people. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, Kaci, for your very insightful questions.